Welcome to English Stories' arrival wasn't marked by joy. It was shrouded in tragedy, loss, and emotional turmoil. Before Saddam was born, his father either passed away or vanished. Historians still dispute the truth. Some claim he abandoned the family, others say he succumbed to illness. One thing is certain, he was gone. Saddam's mother, Suba Tolfa, was left alone, pregnant, heartbroken, and already grieving the death of her first son before Saddam's birth. This grief overwhelmed her. She tried to give up her unborn child and even attempted to end her own life. Eventually, she handed the newborn Saddam to relatives for his early years. Saddam's childhood was marked by the absence of a mother, a father, and affection. This is where the roots of his emotional scars were sown. He wasn't born evil, he was born into rejection, chaos, and trauma. Years later, his mother remarried. His stepfather, Hassan al-Ibrahim, was a harsh, impoverished man. Saddam lived in constant fear, enduring frequent beatings. His home was a place where cruelty outshone kindness, and power came from violence, not words. He didn't learn to read or write properly until around age 10. But by then, a darker force was growing within him, a burning anger, a craving for respect, and a hunger for vengeance against a world that had wounded him. At 10, Saddam fled his abusive home to live with his uncle, Karala Tolfa, in Baghdad. This uncle, a former military officer and fervent nationalist, despised Western influence and colonialism. He believed only the strong should lead, and violence was a tool for control. Karala filled Saddam's mind with tales of Arab pride, military triumphs, and ruthless leadership. He taught him about betrayal, power, and struggle. This became Saddam's education, not textbooks, but lessons in dominance, aggression, and fear. He grew obsessed with authority. He didn't just want wealth, he wanted respect, control, and to never feel powerless again. In Baghdad, Saddam began school but wasn't a scholar. He was known for his aggression, intimidation, and violent streak. He carried weapons as a student, fought frequently, and even stabbed others. Classmates feared him, and he relished that fear. He wasn't traditionally intelligent, but he was cunning, patient, and driven, not by peace, but by control. In the late 1950s, Iraq was a cauldron of political unrest. The monarchy faced growing hatred, especially among the poor and nationalists. In this climate, Saddam joined the Ba'ath Party, a group advocating Arab unity, socialism, and forceful leadership. The Ba'athists didn't believe in waiting for change, they were ready to seize it, even through violence. Saddam, with his burning ambition and violent energy, was a perfect fit. Still in his early 20s, he was young but brimming with fire, drive, and dangerous confidence. This was the foundation of Saddam Hussein's rise, a neglected, abused boy shaped by extremists, fueled by a belief that fear equals strength and violence solves problems. He hadn't yet killed or ruled, but the path was clearing, and what followed would shake Iraq to its core. Because Saddam was ready to ascend. In the late 1950s, Iraq was a powder keg. The monarchy crumbled in 1958 when the king was overthrown and killed in a brutal military coup. The new military-led government claimed to serve the people, but many, especially Arab nationalists, felt it was still under foreign control, particularly from Britain and America. The Ba'ath Party, which Saddam had joined, demanded a strong, independent Iraq united with other Arab nations. They believed change required force, not negotiation. Saddam, though young, was a loyal and trusted member. He was reserved but fiercely dedicated, acting decisively when needed. The Ba'athists were plotting something major. The president at the time, General Abdul Karim Qasim, was seen as a problem. Many in the party believed he was too close to communists, risking Arab unity and inviting Soviet influence. In 1959, Saddam, at just 22, was chosen for a perilous mission to help assassinate Qasim. The plan was straightforward but risky. Qasim's car would pass through a narrow Baghdad street, and Saddam's group would ambush it with machine guns. 7 men hid, weapons ready. Saddam carried a rifle and pistol. When the president's car appeared, gunfire erupted. Saddam fired, but chaos ensued. Qasim was wounded, his driver killed, but he survived. The plan failed. The government hunted the conspirators, and Saddam's face soon appeared on wanted posters across Baghdad. Injured in the leg, he could barely walk but escaped with Ba'ath Party help. He fled through rural areas, hid in villages, crossed rivers, and traveled by night. Eventually, he reached Syria and later Egypt, where Arab nationalists were welcomed. In Cairo, he lived under a false name, enrolled in law school at Cairo University, but never finished. More importantly, he stayed connected to the Ba'ath Party, learning, waiting, and planning. In 1963, the Ba'athists seized power in Iraq through a coup. Saddam returned to Baghdad with high hopes, but the new government was shaky and fell after 9 months to another military faction. Once again, Saddam was at risk. This time, he didn't flee. He went underground, working quietly with Ba'athists to reorganize and plot their next move. He married his cousin, Sajida, and started a family, even as his political life grew more dangerous. By now, Saddam was more than a fighter, he was a strategist. Calm, calculated, and focused, he began mastering the art of power, controlling information, building loyalty, and instilling fear. His plans grew darker. In 1964, Iraqi police captured him, and he was jailed in Baghdad. But Saddam didn't falter. He used his prison time to think, write, and organize. In 1966, he escaped with help from Ba'athist insiders, bribed guards, and a waiting car ensured his freedom. This escape made him a legend within the party, seen as a leader, not just a soldier. In 1968, the Ba'ath Party seized Iraq again, this time more securely. Ahmed Hassan al-Bakr became president, and Saddam was named vice president. Behind the scenes, Saddam was the true power. He controlled intelligence, the secret police, and information networks. He monitored conversations, watched the military, and eliminated rivals quietly. He rewarded loyalty and punished defiance, all while maintaining a public smile. By the early 1970s, Saddam was Iraq's shadow ruler. Though not yet president, he was the real force. He built torture chambers, trained men in surveillance, and created a system where no one felt safe. Yet, he also won public support by nationalizing oil, bringing wealth to Iraq, and investing in schools, roads, and cities. These weren't acts of generosity but calculated moves. Saddam knew that to rule, he had to make people both love and fear him. On July 16, 1979, President al-Bakr resigned, citing health issues. The truth was different. Saddam had outmaneuvered him, placing loyalists in key roles across the government, army, and media. The next day, Saddam became president and everything shifted. 2 weeks later, he called a Ba'ath Party meeting in Baghdad. Hundreds of members gathered, men who had worked with him, trusted him. Saddam took the stage, calm, and read from a list of names, accusing them of treason. The room froze. Some fainted, others wept. Guards dragged the named men away, many to their deaths. In one day, over 60 senior members were purged. The message was clear: no one was safe, not even allies. This marked the start of Saddam's true reign, built on fear alone. As president, Saddam tightened his grip. He expanded the Mukhabarat, Iraq's intelligence agency, to spy on everyone: phone calls, schools, mosques, markets. Neighbors informed on neighbors, children were taught to report on parents. A single misstep could mean arrest or death. Saddam's image was everywhere: classrooms, newspapers, TV. Iraq became his personal stage, and he its sole voice. The nation wasn't a country anymore, it was a prison adorned with flags. He trusted few, relying on family and Tikrit loyalists. His sons, Uday and Qusay, held key roles. His relatives filled military and intelligence posts. Loyalty was ensured not by love but by fear of losing everything. In the early 1980s, life under Saddam mixed progress with paranoia. He built roads, schools, and hospitals, offering free education and healthcare. But these were tools of control, keeping people comfortable enough to stay silent. Those who spoke out, writers, artists, students, vanished, tortured, or killed. In 1980, Saddam launched the Iran-Iraq War, believing Iran was vulnerable after its 1979 revolution. He feared its influence and wanted to cement Iraq's dominance. He expected a quick victory, but the war dragged on for 8 years, killing over 1 million people. Both sides used brutal tactics: chemical weapons, child soldiers, mass executions. Iraq's economy crumbled, cities were bombed, and families suffered. Yet Saddam refused to back down, equating retreat with weakness. He built statues of himself, gave grandiose speeches, and insisted Iraq was winning. Criticism was outlawed, even privately. Artists wrote poems in his praise, children were taught to see him as a father figure. Survival meant silence. Part 2: Storms Beyond Borders. The war ended, but Iraq was broke, its people exhausted. Saddam felt betrayed, believing Iraq had shielded the Arab world from Iran. He expected debt forgiveness from Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. When Kuwait refused and increased oil production, lowering global prices and hurting Iraq's income, Saddam saw it as a personal affront. He accused Kuwait of stealing oil from a shared border field. Diplomacy failed, and he prepared for war. On August 2, 1990, Iraqi forces invaded Kuwait, occupying it in 48 hours. Saddam declared it Iraq's 19th province, expecting the world to stay silent. He was wrong. The UN, US, UK, and others condemned the invasion, imposing sanctions that crippled Iraq's economy. The UN gave Saddam until January 15, 1991, to withdraw. He refused. On January 17, Operation Desert Storm began with relentless airstrikes. By February 24, a ground invasion liberated Kuwait in 100 hours. Iraq was defeated, but Saddam remained in power, claiming a spiritual victory. Inside Iraq, chaos erupted. Shia in the south and Kurds in the north rebelled, hoping for US support. None came. Saddam crushed the uprisings with brutal force, killing thousands and displacing more. Sanctions worsened life, hunger, medicine shortages, and malnutrition spread. Saddam maintained control through fear, building bigger statues and plastering his image everywhere. He moved between secret palaces, paranoid of assassination, yet still dreamed of Iraq's resurgence. Part 3: The World Closes In. On September 11, 2001, Al-Qaeda's attacks on the U.S. killed nearly 3,000. Though Saddam had no connection, the U.S. labeled Iraq a threat, suspecting he hid weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, due to his past use of chemical weapons. UN inspectors found no WMDs in 2002, but the U.S. distrusted Saddam's cooperation. In 2003, President Bush demanded Saddam leave Iraq or face war. Saddam defied him. On March 20th, Operation Iraqi Freedom began with shock and awe airstrikes. Within weeks, U.S. forces entered Baghdad. On April 9th, a statue of Saddam was toppled in Firdos Square, symbolizing his fall. But Saddam had vanished. The U.S. hunted him, but he was gone until December 13, 2003. In Operation Red Dawn near Tikrit, soldiers found Saddam hiding in a small underground hole. Dirty, bearded, and unarmed, he said, "I am Saddam Hussein, President of Iraq. I want to negotiate." There was no negotiation. He was captured, and the news spread globally. In 2005, Saddam faced trial for the 1982 Dujail killings, where over 140 were executed after an attempt on his life. The trial, televised, showed him defiant, arguing with judges, denying guilt. Witnesses and evidence painted a grim picture. On November 5, 2006, the verdict was given. Saddam Hussein was found guilty of crimes against humanity. The punishment, death by hanging. Many Iraqis celebrated the decision. Some said justice was finally served. Others feared it would bring more violence. But the sentence was clear, and the date was set. It was the morning of Eid al-Adha, a major Islamic festival. While most people in Iraq prepared for prayer and celebration, Saddam was taken from his cell. He wore a dark coat over a white shirt. He was calm. He walked slowly. He was taken to a small room in a building once used by his own intelligence services. A few officials were present. A video camera recorded everything. He was offered a hood. He refused. The noose was placed around his neck. A few people exchanged words. There were no last-minute delays. And then, it was done. Saddam Hussein was executed by hanging. His body was later taken to Al-Ajah, his birthplace, and buried near a family tomb. The man who had ruled Iraq with iron for 24 years was now gone. But Iraq did not find peace. In the years after his death, civil war, terrorism, and foreign occupation continued. The group ISIS rose from the ashes of old extremist movements. Sectarian violence grew. Car bombs, kidnappings, and street wars became common. Some Iraqis said Saddam's removal brought freedom. Others said it opened the gates to endless bloodshed. Even today, Iraq continues to carry the pain, the questions, and the scars of that era. Saddam Hussein's story is not just the story of one man. It is the story of a child who grew up in fear. A young man who chose control over kindness. A leader who built a system with silence, fear, and strength. And a country that followed him, resisted him, feared him, and survived him. His story shows how power can rise and how it can fall. How one decision can lead to war. And how one voice can shape or silence millions. This was not a fairy tale. This was real. This was history. Now that the story is complete, let's stop and ask, what do we learn? 1. Power built on fear does not last forever. Fear can control people, but it cannot build peace. 2. Silence is not always safety. In many places, people stay silent to survive. But silence also allows cruelty to grow. 3. History must be remembered, not repeated. Stories like this must be studied, not ignored, so we can protect the future. 4. Every choice matters. One leader's choices affected millions. That is the weight of leadership and the danger of ego. This video is not meant to praise or blame anyone. This is not about politics. This is not about religion. This is not about hate. This video is about education, understanding, and learning through real stories. Every fact in this story was carefully researched. Every moment was written to help you understand history in simple English so that you can learn language, life, and leadership through the truth. Please remember, this is an educational story. It is not made to support or attack anyone. If you found this video powerful, informative, and eye-opening, please share it. And if you want to learn more stories like this, subscribe to our channel because here, we tell the world's most powerful stories in a way that helps you learn, grow, and think. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay strong, and keep learning.